When you see ADAMA, you see unbridled Black excellence. Whether on the African continent, throughout the diaspora, or in your indigenous residence, it represents our unrivaled global presence. Whether prologue, present, or prescient, it's a tribute to the days of the troubadours and chevaliers, to the griots heaven sent, that raised protest and said none rest until we put down local and global unrest. To those who refuse to be reticent, to those who refuse to be silent, it's a love letter to Black love, so warning to white violence. It's years of tears, it's eons of joy. At ADAMA, you will see yourself, your elders, your peers, men and women, ladies and gentlemen, children, girls and boys. It's a place you can explore, digest, and enjoy in a minute or a week, in a year or an hour. And what makes it unique is that it's complete and completely ours. It's a seed that blossomed and bloomed into a beautiful rainflower. It's an acorn buried beneath a radiant rain shower that grew into a tree. That voice you hear in your ear on the breeze says, when you see ADAMA, you see our unbridled elegance, you see our undeniable presence, you see our joy, our pain, you see our struggle, our reign. When you see ADAMA, you see unbridled Black excellence. Man, my car doesn't talk.
Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, wherever you may find yourself in the world. My name is Maboula Soumahoro. I have the pleasure tonight to moderate this conversation that we are going to have about diaspora narratives, that is to say Afro-diasporic narratives, with two contemporary artists, Derrick.O.Boateng and Ato Ribeiro. So before anything begins, I would like to thank ADAMA, that is to say the African Diaspora Art Museum of Atlanta, for this invitation, in particular Dr. Peku and Kayla and the entire team. I have with me Derrick.O.Boateng and Ato Ribeiro that I'm going to present briefly so that we can keep the limited time we have on this what I'm sure is going to be a lively and interesting conversation about your practice, your respective practice, in relation to this African diaspora. So I'll begin with you, Derrick. You are an autodidactic fine art photographer. You often refer to yourself as a photographer, that is to say your use of the iPhone to take the pictures you want and also edit the pictures you want. You are inspired by the wisdom of African proverbs and the richness of the continent, creating vibrant images that veer between visual poetry and conceptual art. You are, Derrick, you employ this unique chromatic language, stark silhouettes. We can see some of the images behind you. So if people pay attention, you have photographs right behind you on the wall. And you use those and ancient storytelling to challenge negative and limited perceptions of Africa. Since the onset of your artistic path, photography and post-production have been entirely iPhone-based. Derrick, your work brims with energy, color, and most of all, joy. And Derrick coined the term hueism to advocate a larger African art movement. So maybe we can talk about that later on. Your turn, Ato. So you are a multidisciplinary artist working in a variety of media, including sculptural installation, drawing, and printmaking. You were born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and have spent the formative years of your life in Accra, Ghana. Last year, in 2022-2023, you served as the MoCA Georgia Fellow, and in 2017, you were the Mercedes-Benz Financial Services Emerging Artist Award recipient. You have earned multiple residencies throughout the world, and you have earned your BA from Morehouse College in Atlanta and your MFA in print media from Cranbrook Academy of Art, Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. I hope I've been able to cover everything. I'm sorry. Do we have a third person on the?
No. I work with Derrick, so I
Okay.
normally do the questions with
Yes, I
him.
was confused that I might have left out something and I was not
No
prepared.
problem.
Yeah, so perhaps I will begin with location to both Ato and Derrick, Derrick's representative. Where are we speaking from? I'm speaking from Paris, France.
I'm currently speaking from Miami, Florida. I'm doing an artist residency called Fountainhead for the month of April, and so I'm calling from Miami at the moment.
Miami, Florida. Thank you.
Yeah, Derrick and I are coming. We're speaking from Ghana. I'm currently in Derrick's studio. Derrick's at his house. But I think there's a bit of a problem with our connection. We're having some difficulty with our fiber optic cables in West Africa at the moment. So apologies. Yeah.
Okay, no worries. So we are really covering this, transatlantic triangle in different parts of these Atlantic shores. So Florida in the United States. We're also located in Atlanta with the African Diaspora Art Museum. I'm located in Paris, France, right, hexagonal France. And we are also speaking from Accra in Ghana, West Africa. So what we're trying to do is really perhaps tie your respective artistic practices to this notion of the African diaspora. So I'll begin with you, Ato. Perhaps would you like to say more about, in your own terms, right, how you view your artistic practice, and so then we can move on to its relation to the African diaspora. What would you like to say about your work?
With my work in particular, I think I'm engaging a lot with language and how people of African descent have always embedded language in textiles. Specifically because I got my MFA in printmaking, and I can talk a little more about that a little later. But before doing my MFA, location was such a big issue for me. I was at Morehouse, and I was talking about the Nancy series, and exploring the folklores of Anansi and sharing that with that audience. Then I moved back to Ghana, and then I was talking about my African American side and the difficulty for African Americans to retain our history here because my audience was different, and I wasn't going to talk about Anansi in Ghana, So when I went for my MFA, I was trying to find a way to bridge both of these conversations without having to keep switching my content if my audience changed. This is where I started bridging these two conversations about how we've always found ways to talk to one another using textiles. One, because in the print department, a lot of the conversations we were having were very Eurocentric, and you would have assumed that Africans weren't participating in print histories, So I chose to find a way to focus on the people that I cared about and wanted to share space and time with. And through that, ended up coming up with this recent body of work, which is I call the Kente Quilt series, and talks about the similarities between how people have embedded language in traditional West African strip weaving techniques and Adinkra symbology, and the similarities to African American quilting. So regardless of where I travel to, I can still work with found materials, repurposed woods, anywhere to have these conversations about cultural hybridity and how we embed language.
We'll talk more about the discarded woods in a minute.
Yes.
But maybe before I turn to Derrick, can you say more about your own relationship between the United States of America and Ghana, perhaps for the the general audience, so that we can better understand your coming and going between the two places, and how it might have impacted your your artistic practice and influenced it.
Right. So again, my name is Découverte. I'm a fine art photographer and a practitioner of Husian.
I'm sorry.
So the relationship I have with...
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Derrick?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
The question was for Ato. Before turning to you, I just wanted to Ato to say further, to share with us further information about your relationship with Ghana and the United States? If you
could
say
personally. Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So I was born in Philadelphia. My brothers and I were all born in Philadelphia. But I grew up in Ghana since I was 1. In Accra, I went to Children's Center, Ghana International School, all these things. But because my brothers we all knew that we were going to go to college at Morehouse in the States, we felt it would be easier for me to move over for high school so I could transition from the British system to the American system. So this is where I came. So, but throughout my life growing up, I've always come back and visited friends and family here in the States. So I've always had that feeling of being of both places, of neither, in between, and communicating that regardless of which side I'm on. It's always been a very big part of my identity personally, but also as I got older, I kept learning more and more about the artists and scholars who also shared this kind of relationship through their travels and experiences. So it became something that I chose to kind of hone in on, that spoke more personally to me, but also allowed an opportunity to speak about this larger conversation of cultural hybridity and in-between spaces that a lot of us experience in the diaspora, regardless of where we are. If we're in Canada, or Germany, or France, that in-betweenness and seeing similarities and differences that other people don't generally see. Like when we see Sankofa symbols in burglar proofing over here, and we know what it means, but other people might just think it's just burglar proofing. I found an opportunity to be able to really hone in on that and kind of celebrate those moments, but use them also as a form of evidence of how we've always participated in certain histories, regardless of whether or not people see it. I hope that added it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So we are going to wait for Derrick to come back. So as soon as he comes back, I will have to interrupt you. Ato, I hope you don't mind. We'll try to make the best of it because we're ending the conversation. He's coming back.
Yeah.
And but my next question for you, you can start thinking about it, Ato, is what's going to be your understanding of this African diaspora? What you have in mind when you have this term, African diaspora? I'm going to pause with you for a minute, and I'm going to turn to you, Derrick.
So my specific understanding of the African diaspora?
Yes, but after Derrick, now that he's back.
Sorry.
Okay. Hi, Derrick. Can you hear me? Yes?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. So my first question had to do with, location and your artistic practice. Can you say more about your, a photographer or photography practice, what Ghana and perhaps the larger continent of Africa means to you, and what you're trying to convey or to work with, to reflect upon through your practice? This is a very general question. I don't know if you...
I think it's cut out. But again, this is why I'm here, just to make sure that I can keep the conversation going as well. Yes, but basically, Derrick's practice is, as you said earlier, he coined it as the term huism, and his inspiration for huism was mainly because African art is really underrepresented, and as he was doing research and studying art, he realized that there is no isms, no art movements that purely focus on Africa, which is probably the main reason why a lot of the perceptions of Africa are so underrepresented and very negative. So he's decided, no, I'm going to make up my own art movement so that we have more of a voice. And he created this movement called huism, which is a combination of color therapy and visual poetry, and it's quite a unique practice because it's still the same thing like a painter would do, but his processes that he uses photography as well. And before he actually starts anything, he does get a lot of consulting from his elders. His dad is a big elder in the community, and he uses African proverbs that haven't been recorded before, haven't been really documented so much. Because in the culture, they don't, everything is very oral. Some of these ancient traditions and ancient, I would say, literature, he takes that literature and uses the literature to create visual poems. For example, he'll get a proverb, and then he would use things like fruits. He would use different motifs to represent the proverb, and then the color brings out all this kind of joy. And you see, colors are a very big thing in Africa. I know the language of color is different depending on the culture you're on, but he knew the importance of color when he was growing up, because if he saw his mum wearing white, he knew, oh, she's going to church. If he saw his mum in colorful clothes, oh, she's going to the market. So there's obviously a very strong connection to color and Africa as well. Also, again, growing up, if you look at our flag, the Ghana flag, the green has a certain meaning. The red has a certain meaning. The star has a certain meaning. So he took a lot of influence from his culture. I like what Ato said about the kente, because it's the same. Each color in the kente has a specific meaning. So this is the same, I would say, way he uses to kind of express his art as well. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Oh yes, it does. Perhaps I'll have a few comments about what you just said. When you speak about color therapy and visual poetry, right? These are the words that's stuck with me. Can you say more about, the use and the meaning of colors? Perhaps Ato, you will have to intervene here, but when we make this association between the African continent and bright colors, we are actually talking about a particular time in African history. If we look at the pre-colonial and more traditional, colors that were used, in textile and everything, the colors were less bright, right? There's the brightness is also a marker of this European invasion. So how do you, manage, if I'm not mistaken in what I say, how do you manage this, like imperial colonial legacy and also this urge to, go back or remember and honor traditional ways that Derrick is doing in his practice? And perhaps this is something that we can also talk about, Ato, when you're ready.
Okay, so with the color therapy, color makes you feel certain ways. It has a lot of story behind it. But red could also mean passion, and red could also mean blood. There's it just really does depend. And what's happening is with Derrick, depending on the theme of the proverb. So for him, if the theme of the proverb is something to do with environmental awareness, he would use bright green in a different kind of like way, if that makes sense. And then with the visual poetry, this is something like, for example, he might like the piece behind me over here.
Yeah, with the yellow background.
Yeah, in the background, like okay, maybe even
the other one. Okay,
the other one. Yeah, that's right. Like where he's kind of like holding an apple. Well, that fruit is basically part of the visual poetry, because apple means so many things, but to him it would have tied into his proverb. So this is kind of like how the visual poetry is kind of done. It's all to do with posture. It's all to do with the actions that the characters are kind of standing, or they could be sitting down, and it all kind of tells a beautiful story.
Thank you so much. We're going to use the opportunity of Derrick's presence. Okay. I wasn't quick enough. So Ato, if you want to add anything about the use of color in like contemporary African art as opposed to more traditional or more ancient times, was there anything you wanted to add on this topic?
Well, they're very, very, like we were mentioning earlier, there's a very, very rich history of how color has been used on the continent, but also far predates colonial times, like going back to when we would trade with India and China and even European nations to be able to access certain foods and glue, to be able to unravel those cloths that we've gotten and use them in our kente, you know what I mean? Because we wanted to access certain colors. And I think personally, when it comes to me and how I use color in my work, I'm more interested in how the hard and soft woods that I'm sourcing kind of reflect our general skin tones.
Yes.
Focusing more on how their relationship to the body, rather than how color is being used. And the reason for that, I mean, there are certain pieces that I will make that introduce color in a different way. That is way more intentional. There's a recent piece I did, and I'm happy to say the Smithsonian Renwick picked it up, but it's a piece based off of a quilt. Thank you. It's a piece based off of a quilt that my great-great-great-grandmother quilted in Spartanburg, South Carolina. It's called the Spartanburg Freedom Flag. And I wanted to show the similarity between that freedom flag and Asafo flags in Cape Coast, because compositionally they're set up the same way, where in the top left quadrant you have some sort of like homage to some sort of colonial history, or it's situated where the battle was happening, and then the rest of the textile talks about certain things. But I wanted these colors to also reflect the American flag. So I used discarded acrylics, that was oranges, blues, to be able to kind of pull that conversation back into the American flag, so less bodily. However, I personally like to just talk when I'm introducing my work to certain people about the histories of how color is used over there. But I'm not trying to. I'm a very sensitive artist. I'll say that. I'm a very sensitive person, and I'm trying also to straddle this line where it never sounds like, look at what we do and how great we are over here. You know what I mean? Because a lot of the work I'm doing deals with trying to think about how things are received over there and over here at the same time.
Yes.
I'm more concentrated on certain narratives than actually how color was used specifically in Kente cloth. There's this kind of universal nature that I'm trying to get, especially with the quilting edition, that references so many other cultures outside of African American quilt making. But everybody has a quilting background, regardless of where they're coming from. So there's this way that I'm trying to flatten that conversation a little bit. But yeah, color is incredibly important. And when I'm doing prints and stuff, I will explore all kinds. I do a lot of CMYK prints that are referenced based off of imagery that I'll take in Ghana. And color is always very, very present in there because of the reflection of what it is like actually on the continent. But,
one point I would like to return to, Ato, based on what you just said. When you spoke about your work, if you were to compare and contrast it with the work by Derrick, Derrick's art is very bright, very colorful, when yours seems to be, more toned down. And you said that you are trying to play, or you were trying to reflect, or to give an echo to skin color, right? To the people, the population you're interested in, skin color. What could you say about, this type of balance that you're trying to seek? Perhaps I'm wrong, but based on what you just said, this balance between two locations, multiple locations, balance between, backgrounds, this attempt at communicating, even translating, right? Translating, the body into shapes, forms, prints, and sculptures even, but also your attempt at re-embodying the Black body in, through those colors. Do you see what I'm getting at? Or
kind of, a little bit. I'm getting there slowly.
To be clearer, what can you say about your narrative, this African diaspora narrative? I'm insisting on this because if we were to compare your practice to that of Derrick, and this is what we're doing today, not to oppose, but simply to explore two different ways, right, to approach the same matters, right? How do we end up with, on one side, bright colors, on the other side, more toned down, trying to go closer to reality and to the bodily reality, skin color, but also a translation of forms, a translation ensuring communication from one place to the other.
Okay.
What is your African diaspora narrative about?
Okay. So generally, like I said, there is this one-on-one relationship between the actual hard and soft woods that I speak to as the hard and soft woods that are structurally used to build this country, but are usually hidden behind white. So there's this analogy about seeing certain people and not seeing other people, the way people exoticize woods over here. Growing up in Ghana and knowing I need a new bed, I can draw a design for a bed, and we go to the carpenter and we get to pick out everything. And we have such a direct relationship with these woods. When I came over here, I see pine in a different way, and I think it's gorgeous, but people have a Home Depot aesthetic over here. You know, they're so desensitized to certain woods like plywood and things that I might find beautiful, but there was that little slippage that I thought was very interesting to be able to have these conversations about how we see people and don't see other people. So that was one of the entry points into why I started using wood and removing the figure from my works, but materially the wood became the figure. It's very bodily. So you see the sculptures are highly refined on one side, but left raw on the other. So that's like a nod to W.B. Du Bois's double consciousness and how we present ourselves versus how we're actually structurally built. But then on the other level, I'm also trying to deal with histories that speak to before colonialism and how we always traded with so many other cultures and celebrate that. That's another through line between the two of our works, as far as how we are using these moments of creation to like create a space of celebration where it creates some of a positive manner. But some of the conversations are still very heavy as far as who gets to afford the kente and who doesn't, who gets to be seen and who doesn't, or with regards to quilting, hiding in plain sight and ensuring that you don't get caught. You know what I mean? There are these conversations and through lines that I think it was very important. And the only way I could kind of weave them together was to get people to focus more on the skin tone colors rather than the celebratory pops of color everywhere. But I hope that kind of got to your question.
Yes. It did. I'm going to come back to you. Remind me your name, please. Sorry, I don't think I ever asked.
Jay.
Your name.
Yeah.
Jay. Sorry, Jay. Jay. We're trying to delve into these two artists' understanding, conceptualization of this African diaspora narrative. So, do you have something to say about Derrick's vision of this African diaspora and the narrative that he's trying to that he is elaborating through his art?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think I'm a good person to talk about it because I relocated back to Ghana like 6 years ago. So I'm really
back from where?
From London.
Okay. So
I grew up in London. Yeah, and I relocated back to Ghana. So I am the diaspora. If you know what I mean.
Were you born in London?
Born in London, that's right.
And your family is from Ghana?
Both family from Ghana. Mom and dad both from Ghana.
Okay.
And so I met Derrick here, and basically, we've lost a lot of touch with the culture because of being from London. It's all about being British, not African, of course. And we play a very big role in trying to Africa a great place again, if you know what I mean. And I've learned a lot from Derrick because he feels the diaspora plays a very big part in trying to re-educate our people about what our culture really is, because it has been, again, underrepresented, misrepresented is probably the best word. And one thing he really used to talk about a lot is why is it that they only focus on poverty whenever they speak about Africa? Why is it just the negative things about Africa that they put out there in the open when it comes to the West? He didn't understand. And when I was explaining the reasons why, it kind of motivated him to want to do something about it.
Can you know about those reasons that you explained?
Yeah.
What are those reasons according to you, Jay?
So the main reason is the misrepresentation of the culture and just highlighting one side of African culture, which is the poverty side, and there's so much more to the culture than just, the poverty side. Every culture has poverty in there. But why is it that when we're talking about Africa, we only focus on that side?
Do you have an answer to that question?
Yeah, no. Well, my answer is obviously it's very political. You know,
let's be political.
It's a very political answer, but obviously I don't want to be too controversial here. But yeah, I mean,
let's go there. Come on, let's go there.
We're free. You can be free for 1 hour online. I don't think.
I mean, obviously, we're in their country, so they're going to put their culture in front of ours. So you know, it's quite self-explanatory. But I definitely feel where he's definitely right is when we go back to the Proverbs is the origins of African culture. So you actually get to see what you need to know about the culture and not just focus on the negative side, but also focus on the other sides, the joy, the beauty of the culture. And Derrick told me this one proverb that, you know, I love so much, which was that, you know, we don't inherit the earth from our ancestors, but rather we borrow it from our children. And you see, like a proverb like that, for example, obviously I've translated it from, but a proverb like that, I mean, it means like intergenerational perspective. It also means sustainable practice or environmental awareness. This is what it means. And it's like, these are the things that our people need to know, or not just our people, even outside of our culture, they need to know the other sides of the culture, the beautiful sides of the culture. And I do remember there was a time we had a campaign with Google. Google reached out for Derrick to do basically change the background of their interface, their search engine, and they put one of Derrick's pieces at the back. And we were really intrigued. We were like, I mean, why did you contact Derrick? Why did you want Derrick to do this? And the first thing they said was because he makes Africa look so different. He makes Africa look so beautiful and rich and colorful. And that's exactly what he's doing this for, you know, to change the perspective on how people see Africa. Because people in Africa know what Africa's like, but people outside Africa, like the diaspora, they need a better insight. They need better packaging, if you know what I mean, to see what this place is actually about and the beauty of it. Apart from the bad internet connection, but we'll get there.
But we're working with it. Thank you so much, Jay.
No
we're going to try to use this opportunity to catch up on everything with you, right? Yeah. So you can say whatever you want to say about your practice, your vision of the African diaspora. What is the African diaspora? According to you, what is the narrative that you're trying to carry, to convey, throughout your art? You know, like, this is what we've covered so far, and we're so happy you're back.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, thank you. So I'll start off with an African saying that says that you don't need to blow your own trumpet. So that's the main reason why Jay is there. You know, he kind of knows how to, you know, say some things for me, so I doesn't feel like I'm blowing my own trumpet.
It's not about blowing your own trumpet. It's just talking about, you know, the thoughts behind your practice. You know, it's not about blowing your own trumpet. I don't think you have to do that, but to talk about the philosophy, or what drives you, what motivates you, or what fuels your practice.
All right. So I mean, for me, the whole point of me starting Heroism as an African art movement is to preserve our culture. That's one aspect that I think really goes in line with what I'm trying to do. You know, and also trying to talk about the things that hasn't been mistaught, that has been taught very badly to our generation. You know, so for me, growing up, I always felt that there's a lot of miseducation on our culture as Black people. You know, I mean, looking at where I was growing up, from growing up from my communities and everything, I always thought, you know, we had joy, we were kind of happy almost every time. I never we were lacking something when we were growing up, you know. But when I came onto social media, when I came onto the media, I found out there's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of misinformation about who we are as people. And for me, I always thought, you know, healing was kind of like a tool, you know, to use to talk about those states.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. You spoke about this African arts movement that you're trying to foster or that you're trying to continue. Is that what you said? The African arts movement? Is it a term?
Yeah,
terminology?
The art
so
movement.
For me, I see this to be an art movement.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And would you be able to describe it? How would this ideal African art movement, how would it look like? How would you describe it?
Yeah, so I mean, so the main missions and I mean the whole vision behind hueism is to serve as color therapy. Growing up, and I mean looking at the country that I'm coming from, Ghana, color means a lot to us. I mean, we kind of find time to explain colors and get to know the meanings of colors. So when you come to my country, red represents could represent sorrow, could represent joy, could represent love. It depends on the kind of emotions and the state to which you are, to be able to define what color is. So for me, I see hueism to represent color therapy and to change the perceptions of our continent.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Anything to say about your location? I've been talking to Jay. He explained to us that he was born in London, in the UK, and of Ghanaian ancestry, and that he has chosen later in his life to relocate to Ghana. I've been talking to Ato as well, who explained to us that he was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the US, and that early on his family relocated to Ghana, and then Ato went back to the United States, right? What about you? Were you born in Ghana? Have you always lived in Ghana? And what if that is the case? What meaning do you give to this deep anchoring on Ghanaian soil and African soil, and how might that influence or impact your work according to you?
Right. So so I was born in Ghana. I've lived throughout my life in Ghana, and just a lot of travel in and out. But yes, I've lived all my life in Ghana. And I mean, for me, I always feel like Ghana has something to offer. Africa has something to offer. So for me, it's just me talking about what our cultures are in Africa, and what our traditions are in this part of the world. So for me, it's just inspirations from what I see over here and trying to pass that on to people that feel like this is not what Africa really is. So for me, it's mainly just about changing the perceptions of what truly our traditions and what our cultures are in Africa.
So you seem to be using Ghana and Africa interchangeably. They're the same. Is it proper to Ghana? Is it the I don't know, Nkrumah's legacy of Pan-Africanism and the Black Star echoing the Universal Negro Improvement Association of Garvey of the 1920s, or is it an individual decision, right? To you, is Ghana Africa? Is Africa Ghana? Where are we in this Pan-African tradition? Right. Where do you stand?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So right. So for me, I always feel like all the African countries, we kind of have right.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I missed.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I couldn't hear the. I can hear you now, but I think we missed the end of your previous sentence.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, sorry. Could you say the question again, please? Just so we could.
So for me, I always feel like all the African countries have some similar.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Derrick. The question, Jay, was in the way Derrick speaks, he seems to equate Ghana with Africa, Africa with Ghana, and I was just simply teasing him a little, saying, is that an individual, understanding and view of the world, of the continent, and of his country, or is it some remnants and vestiges of the legacy of Nkrumah and the strong Pan-African, tradition of Ghana. Ghana stands at a particular place in the history of Pan-Africanism, right? I was talking about the Black Star and Marcus Garvey and the Universal Negro Improvement Association. So that was my question.
No, it really is in line with Kwame Nkrumah's message, definitely. I think there's a lot of traces of Pan-Africanism in what he's doing, because the movement is, as he said, it's all about preserving the culture and bringing other African nations.
Okay, we're losing you too. Derrick, are you here?
This sounds like WhatsApp calls with my family every day.
It happens, but we will do. They'll come back. They'll come back. So I'm turning back to you. Not out of despair. I was going to ask more questions.
It's okay. It's fine. I know you don't like me. It's okay.
Yeah,
I'm joking.
Okay, so who's speaking now? Derrick, are you saying something? Because you work it off and you came back in the middle of a sentence, so we didn't hear what you said. If you said something, Derrick, we didn't hear you. Oh, okay. So I'm going to turn to you, Ato. We've been talking about only hinting at, Pan-Africanism, this transnational African or Black identity. You stand again in contrast with Derrick, because you mentioned when we first started speaking about your in-betweenness, right? In-betweenness, you're going back and forth between Ghana and the United States. You feeling comfortable in both spaces, right? But standing in between still, right? When we just spoke to Derrick, who, unlike Jay, was born in Ghana and has spent or is spending most of his time in Ghana. What do you think are the challenges, or perhaps what is at stake in this conversation, this transatlantic conversation between the continent and the diaspora? Do you see any, communication, miscommunication, misunderstandings, or do you see it as a fluid conversation that has taken place for centuries now? What's your take on that? What is the diaspora in relation to the African continent, and what is the African continent in relation to the diaspora?
I personally think it's all of the above. There's interwoven. There's always a constant dialogue happening between people, and how I can best say, there's this other proverb where it says that there's enough space in the night sky for all the stars. There's always so many different conversations, and everybody wants to be like, yes, Black is King did not represent us, or yes, it really did, or and growing up in between both, I've learned to enjoy Beyonce Black is King album here and understand that it's going to read completely different over there.
Yes.
So that neither are wrong. I really enjoy those moments of slippage and use them as an opportunity to be able to kind of start a dialogue or a conversation. And I think that talks a little bit to some of the work I was doing before this. When I went back to Ghana, just like Derrick was mentioning before about like how in a certain sense our practices are kind of righting the wrongs of history, omitting certain things about who we actually are. The same way that people misunderstand us here. I think a big thing, about what we're doing in our work in creating an ashe for a moment to celebrate our culture and the positives in there. It also kind of, it's working both ways. My audience is not the West. It's just everybody I love, the people I'm thinking about, the people I'm caring about, and hopefully one day they'll get to see it. I feel accountable to the artisans that I grew up seeing, so I'm thinking about them in my studio at the same time. But I'm also.
Can you name them? Can you name a few of those artists? a few of those influences?
Koite Tete was this amazing modernist painter and printmaker. That he was the first artist that I grew up in after school when I was at GIS. My dad had an internet cafe in La Bonnie, and I used to go over to his artist studio, and just like it was the first time I got to see an artist in work with all this color, and it was possible to be an artist. You know, I'm thinking about those people all the time. I'm thinking about the people I don't know their names that are carving incredible 10-foot talking drums, you know, and you'll never know their names. So because I have the privilege of being here and in certain circles making art as a profession, I personally feel like I have to push my practice to a point of where I'm making it very labor intensive for a reason, because I'm trying to channel that work ethic that I grew up seeing. But what I was saying before is that as far as like correcting the wrongs of history, like some of the work I was working on when I was doing the large charcoal erasing drawings about my African American side in the family when I was in Ghana, was because there are some friends I grew up with in Kaneshi, North Kaneshi, that like, they're all very educated people. They travel, but a lot of us learn a lot from Hollywood. And so they have this mentality that, Chale, when I come to America, I'm going to find some smart white man who's making money, and I'll follow in his footsteps because I don't want to step on a black person's shoes and get shot. They're learning this from Hollywood and from the images that we circulate, you know. So in me creating these larger than life portraits that were unfixed, it was trying to talk about how hard it is over here to retain our history. You know what I mean? So the sensitivities go both ways. When I'm over here, I also know that like there are a lot of people in the diaspora that still really feel passionate about why didn't we come back for them? You know, like they took us, but why didn't you guys come back for them? And it's not like we didn't try anything, but these are very valid emotions, you know, and thinking about that while thinking about both sides and the diaspora. I mostly reference the diaspora or talk about it with regards to mental real estate. It's the people and spaces that you spend time, that occupy time in your head. You might not have ever been there before, but if this is talking to you, if it's something is calling you, we don't just travel physically, we travel mentally a lot of the time.
That's an interesting phrasing, mental real estate.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it.
And this is a perfect time. I mean, Ashe, going back to like Arturo Lindsay, who's a mentor for Hamu and many, many people, he would always drill into us the essence of the spirit of a thing. Like you can do all you want with your artwork, but once it's out in front of somebody else, it's going to have its own conversation and story. Just know that, you know.
Control, you're not a...
So all we can really do is kind of like in a mantra setting or in our personal practices, really be about that life and really hope we're putting those thoughts and prayers and the essence of those things that we want to reflect on and celebrate into the work. And hopefully when somebody else goes in front of it, and I think it works in both of our work, there are these moments of celebration, this pride. Maybe if you don't understand my work or not, like there's something about it that might stand out that would be like, oh, that's kind of familiar. Whereas somebody else would be like, I can walk right past it and I'm perfectly fine with that too, you know. But I like that celebratory. It's a space that we create for us if we have the time and it will spend time back with us and celebrate with us. I love that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ato. Before I turn to Derrick, can you repeat the proverb about the stars?
Wahela there's a musician who had said it during COVID. Yeah. I remember her talking about it, but it's there's enough space in the night sky for all the stars, and it goes back to his proverb, tooting your own horn. Like there's enough space for all of us, you know. And
really,
yeah.
Thank you so much, Derrick. Back to you. We were talking, Derrick and Jay, back to each of you. We were talking about the relationship between the diaspora and the continent. What do you feel? How do you view this relationship that ties the African diaspora and the African continent? What are the challenges? What is at stake? What are the misunderstandings or understandings, communication or miscommunications? What can you say about that?
Yeah, for me, one thing I'm really most concerned about is, I mean, exposure in terms of traveling. I always feel the diaspora people should come to Africa, and experience what our lives and what truly we are as people, because I believe there's a lot of, again, misperceptions about who we are as people to them. So for me, the easy way for them to, to have a connection with the Africans, it's based on traveling. And for me, I really believe this African people, we says we become what we watch. So which means we are very much influenced about what we see. So the whole idea of what we are, what Africa is now, is just because of what the media portrayed to a lot of people. So for me, I believe in so much in what we see as people. So for me, it's only just because the diaspora people should be able to, come to Africa and experience it for themselves, how we as people. Yeah.
Just to segue off what he's saying,
Yes.
I also think that the African diaspora can definitely do a lot more. They should be doing a lot. It should be doing a lot more. We can do better, because if we're looking at other diasporas, they're doing way better. I'm talking like Asian diaspora, just the other cultural diaspora is a lot more active than Africans. And there's a lot of, I mean, the African American compared to, let's say, the African European, I think there's a huge difference, because the ones in the UK or the ones in Europe have a lot more heritage privilege because they're more connected to their, African side. Whereas in America, if they're not, I would say, if their parents are not directly from Africa, there is a huge kind of disconnect. And
because of the history. Because
sorry?
the diaspora,
not 100%. I mean, there are reasons for all these things, but as I said, I still think we can do a lot better as a people. We're such a huge number, and economically, we make a lot of, we consume a lot, we stand a lot. We're very big, we're very strong. And if we did a lot more, if we were to come together a lot more and put programs out there a lot more to make a bit more effort of bridging that gap, we would see a lot more progress in our culture, just across the board.
Thank you so much. Let me trouble my own question a little bit. Based on what you just answered, both Derrick and Jay, what does or what can the continent, what can Africa do for the diaspora? Because you both highlighted the fact that either the diaspora was not experiencing the African continent firsthand, right? That people needed to travel, people needed to make their own mind instead of being mediated by all the narratives that are elaborated and circulated about the diaspora. And then Jay, about the continent, sorry. And Jay, you spoke about what the diaspora should do, right? What about the continent? What can it do to the diaspora or for the diaspora?
Right. So yes. Okay. There you go first.
No. Come on, Derrick. This is you.
Yeah. Right. So yes. So for me, I mean, I think, yeah. So for me, I think we can't really do much as we that in Africa, for an example, because I mean, this is actually who we are as people, and we this is how we live our lives, and this is how we are brought up as people, So for me, it's more of the diaspora more coming to look at what really Africa is and not Africa trying to put up. I don't know how to say that, but trying to put up in a way for them to feel like they need to come back home. This is how we are as people. And for us, we believe what our cultures and our traditions, our lives are very exciting. It's very beautiful. So for us, I don't think we can do so much as people. To attract people. The only thing we can do is to bring out what truly we are as people. So for us to showcase more what we are as people.
Because there is, I mean, most of the resources are out there in this modern world of how we, operate and do things. So I think what Derrick is also trying to say is it's like there isn't that much we can do in Ghana to entice them to come, apart from, I'd say political things like the visa situation, or making it easier for people to kind of come back, being more welcoming. Ghana is a very safe place. Like, it's the second safest place in Africa, just under Rwanda. And it's always a good place to start, if you know what I mean, in terms of coming back, because it's not an easy job to do. But there is so much opportunity in Africa, like so much opportunity. Like in anything that you're doing, any industry you specialize in, if you come to Africa, there's definitely somewhere for you to start, because literally, whether it's entertainment, whether it's agriculture, whether it's fintech, you name it, any industry you're in, and you're diaspora, you're part of the diaspora in the UK or in the US or somewhere in Europe, if you specialize in something and you come over to Africa, there will definitely be opportunities for you. And obviously I'm proof, because I could have easily stayed in London and enjoyed the ecosystem over there, but I decided to come back to Ghana so that I could help or contribute to building the ecosystem over here. So I just feel there needs to be more of that, so that we can quickly catch up, because we're really behind right now. You know what I mean? And as I said, there's literally a lot of people, when they come here for holidays, enjoy themselves, and then go back. But when I came, all I could see was opportunity, left, right, and center. We could do this, we could do that, we could do this. But I guess it's all a mindset thing, and all we could do, being over here, even people like myself, all we can do is show people that this is it's not as hard as you think. It takes a lot of determination, and if we can attract the people who are very like-minded like us, and very industrial thinking, if they come back, honestly, it will be a beautiful sight to see, honestly.
Thank you so much. We're approaching the end of this conversation. So I will end this conversation with one final question for each of you, beginning with you, Ato. Based on what you've shared with us today, I tend to see your vision of your work and even your practice as an attempt at translation, right? You seem to be interested in passing down or sharing information information, art, and artistic production, as you seem to be really aware of the different spaces that you're navigating. So, in light of all this, and that would be the same question for you, Derrick, and Jay too. Why does art, or how come art has become your language to communicate with within this diaspora, or to communicate with the continent? Why art? What does art allow? Why did you select that medium?
So I've always been interested in math, engineering, architecture, all these different things. And I think when I was an undergrad, I was still undecided at Morehouse the first year. I finally settled on art because I realized I could do all those other things within the art field. Something my mom used to always say when I was little is that scientists make life possible, but artists make life worth living. And I thought that was very profound. And the more time I would spend reflecting on it, like, it added up with some things that my dad would say, like most professions are contact sports. And then I'd learn about art and how, like, it's just people getting to share time with each other and celebrate and read great literature with each other and try to make the world a little better every day. And I think I found a community that excited me. So that's why I chose to go in there. And plus, I also looked at it as an opportunity to be able to continue studying anything else I wanted to. I can work architecturally like Ibrahim Muhammad does, or I can work in, like, many different fields within the art context. So, yeah.
So does art appear, according to you, as a type of universal language? Because
very much so. But it's also such an expansive. It really intrigued me that it was like one of the the degrees that most people didn't know how to describe. They couldn't give me a proper definition. I was like, I really enjoy that. That sounds like somewhere I want to be.
You have to experience it.
Yeah. And and there's so many things in the art field that just really aligned with me personally in my life. I had a lot of amazing people in my family do other professions, and I was just like, I didn't want to do any of those. You know, growing up in Ghana, we're all told we have to be lawyers, doctors, the same diasporic kind of thing. Right, so if you're an artist, you can't date my daughter kind of thing. And I'm like, okay. So no, I really, it had been something that I'd always done over the years, and I finally decided I was gonna just double down and stick to it.
Okay, thank you so much. Jay and Derrick, the same question. Why did you pick, why did art become your language, your vehicle? What does art allow, according to you?
Yeah.
And that is going to be our last question. Whoever wants to begin.
Yeah, I mean, I go with I go with what Ato said exactly. I think art is a universal language that, you know, a lot of people kind of understand, you know. And for me, I always feel like the kind of art I'm doing, it feels more like a responsibility for me, because I think it's something that as a Black person or as a Ghanaian African, I need to do, because I mean we need to show people who we are as people, you know. So for me, I see this to be more of a, you know, like.
I'm sorry, Derrick, we're losing you a bit. So we missed some of the last sentences. If you can hear us.
Yeah.
If you could repeat.
Yes.
The last
right. So I was.
Sorry.
Yes. So right. So as I was saying, what I'm saying is, I believe what I'm doing is a responsibility. You know, me coming to art is a responsibility that I think I was supposed to do.
We get the sense of responsibility. We didn't get the rest. I'm so sorry.
I think he was trying to say that he was supposed to do business because he was studying business in uni. When he came up with this whole Hughesum thing, he was literally in his first year of uni.
So both Derrick and Ato, you made decisions at some point. Like it was one way or the other, and you both selected the artistic path.
No, definitely. And I would also say, like, it's also the absolute, the power of expression, like being able to express yourself in that much detail. And I think that is just an amazing force. It's just an amazing privilege to have, and anyone can have that privilege too. I mean, I take photos with my iPhone all the time, but they never look like his. But you know, yeah, and it really does show that we do have freedom. We have that freedom, and that is very important to Ghanaians for obvious reasons, because of Kwame Nkrumah fighting for freedom and stuff like that. So I know that it makes Derrick feel free. It makes Derrick feel like, yes, I can express myself and get my message out there and build a platform. And yeah, just that sheer power to be able to do that is definitely why I think this boy definitely chose art.
With a sense of responsibility. I want to thank you, each of you, Ato Ribeiro, Derrick.O.Boateng, Jay, I don't have your last name, but nice meeting you. Thank you for your art. Thank you for your production. And also, if you just want to say a few words about what you're working on, what we should be expecting from you, now is the time. Or maybe these are all confidential projects that we cannot hear about. But if you have any news to share with us, please do so now.
I could start. I'm, like I said, still here at the residency, but I should be back in Atlanta on Tuesday. And getting ready for Armory in New York in September. And I have some other more confidential projects, massive scale, that I'm kind of working through at the moment. But If anybody wanted to see some work, I have a show right now that is on view at the Lisa Setti Gallery in Phoenix, Arizona. And I also have some work on view at the Zuckerman Museum. And if anybody is in Atlanta and wants to come visit the studio, I have a studio at Atlanta Contemporary. More than welcome to come.
Next time I make it to Atlanta, I'm coming to your studio, Ato.
You're invited. You're invited.
Okay, it's online now. It's official. The whole world knows.
Official. I'll make kelewele and it will be sweet. It will be very sweet.
Okay, great. Looking forward. Derrick and Jay, if we still have you. Derrick is already gone. I think we lost both of us. I think we need to stop now. It's over 9 p.m. But it's been a pleasure. Thank you for this lovely conversation. That makes me want to fly back to Atlanta as soon as possible, or to Accra and visit your respective studios. Yeah. So again, thank you to everyone in attendance. Thanks again to to ADAMA. Thank you to Dr. Peku. Thank you to Kayla for coordinating the event. And enjoy the rest of your day wherever you may find yourself in the world. I know we have Miami, Florida. We have Ghana. Accra in Ghana, and this is Paris, France. So wherever we may find ourselves within this Atlantic, let's be safe.
Yes.
Jay, just in time to say bye. Only if you want to talk about Derrick's latest projects or anything that.
Okay, yeah. Derrick has a few collections coming out. A few really exciting collections coming out. We've just brought out a book called Huism. It's a coffee table book. But he has a few exciting projects coming up. One is called Motherhood, which is just, it's a collection which is appreciating motherhood. And the other one is Iconography, which is a collaboration between icons and bringing them into the world of Huism. And shooting out a powerful message with the proverbs. And there's a few shows coming up, Miami Art Basel, and also have a museum show in Amsterdam at the Oscar Museum. And Miami Art Basel, Photo London, and a few other shows. But if you follow Derrick's profile, everything will be up there. Okay. And
thank you so much. So my best to Derrick. We won't be able to say bye to him directly, but thank you, Jay. Thank you, Ato.
Thank you for joining.
To Art Museum in Atlanta, and see you soon somewhere in the world.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.